Now onto the third and final phase of our dynamic warm-up sequence. We started on the floor with soft tissue work and foam rolling to mobilize that fascia and get more elastic. Then we woke up those dormant and tight muscles on the floor with our hip activation, glute work, and core work. And now we're ready to have some fun and we're ready to jump around and move a little bit. Now, a proper dynamic warm-up not only prevents injury, strains, and sprains, but it will also make you stronger as your potential to move increases, as your range of motion increases. This dynamic warm-up we're going to take you through is really a dynamic warm-up for life. When we thought about it, we were thinking about counteracting the effects of technology and sitting, and also having you ready to do any kind of movement you want, from walking to climbing to powerlifting. Of course, if you want to get more specific, if you're a runner and you want a specific runner's warm-up, it might be a little different. If you're a soccer player, you'd have a slightly different warm-up. But this is a great general warm-up to add to your day-to-day routine as well, even if you don't go into the gym, to mobilize your tissue, get you ready to move, have you feeling open and ready to face any challenge that faces you. So in this first move, we're going to mobilize the hips and the thoracic spine by opening up the scapula and taking a big stride forward. So what I'm going to ask Peter to do is take that big step with his left leg, go a little forward so he stretches that hip, squeeze that back glute, and reach up toward the sky, remembering to get extension not from his lower back, but from his thoracic spine and upper back. So again, those ribs are basically in, but we're just getting a little upward motion and reach toward the sky. Also, you'll see this as a warrior variation in yoga. We're going to step back, power back, big step forward with the other side. Own the position first, squeeze the glute, reach up, feel that amazing decompression of the spine from the stress that comes into that lower back all day. Step back. You're going to repeat this for 10 total reps. We're not doing too many reps here. The point is to just get the body ready. This whole sequence takes no more than 5 minutes when you really get it down. Now I'm going to have Peter do that same lunge forward, but instead of extending his spine in the thoracic cavity, he is going to turn and reach to the side to get that all-important rotation of the T-spine. So Peter's going to step forward, reach his hands straight, and twist toward the front knee, twisting from his upper back, not from his lower back. You'll notice that he can't reach even all the way back because he's making sure that his belly button stays forward and he's not over mobilizing that lumbar spine. His thoracic spine is mobilizing. Let's step back and we'll alternate to the other leg. Make sure you're looking behind you. I see all the time people do this exercise, but look ahead. The body follows the eyes. So we want to make sure that we're directing that hand where to go. So he's getting that nice neck turn, opening those shoulders, opening the hips. That foot's working really hard not to rotate out as he's rotating, the whole body firing in synchronicity. Your chest is going to flop open after this, and you're going to really feel like your shoulders are sitting better in the shoulder girdle. Step back. In this next move, we're going to get out of the sagittal front and back plane where too often we live our lives. And in fact, working in a side-to-side plane is one of the best things you can do for your knee and for your hip. And in fact, most athletes get injured with these ACL tears and MCL tears because they don't have lateral stability. They're great moving front and back, but when they have to change direction, their knee can't take that. So in any good warm-up and movement prep we do, we've got to make sure to work laterally as well as just in that forward and back plane. So what I'm going to have Peter do now is step up here and do a nice lateral lunge for us. He steps to the side, puts all his weight on that foot here. He'll get a nice stretch of the groin, and then for an added spice here, we're going to stretch that inner thigh as well by externally rotating that foot, coming back, and then stepping together to the other side. You'll notice his first move is a hip back. We don't want to see that knee tracking over the toe. External rotation, get the hip, step together. Peter has a really nice open lateral lunge. Let's do it again. Stepping to the side. You'll notice that his weight is on his big toe here, so that knee isn't falling over the foot laterally. And also, we're keeping that knee and hip back, so we're not putting a shearing force on that knee, and all that strength is going into the hip and the hamstring here. Opening up. And as you get going with this one, feel free to get more dynamic. So jump in, make it react a little bit. React, move, pop. And this is how you want to move as you get better at the dynamic warm-up. This isn't yoga. This is life. This is preparing to lift heavy weights. Get your body reactive, get it dynamic. Now we're going to mobilize the all-important hip hinge. So what we're going to do is bring one foot forward, keep that leg straight, but bend the back knee slightly. I'm going to have Peter maintain a nice flat and neutral spine here as he hinges back in his hip and reaches forward to elongate that hamstring. And you can see that there's no tension in the bent leg. All that tension is created through the hamstring in this front leg. I'm going to have him raise his arm and hinge forward with his hip at the same time. And then switch feet and repeat on the other side. Flexing the back knee, hinging back, reaching and extending that spine. You'll notice his spine is nice and flat. We don't want to mobilize the back here. He reaches up, and let's make it more dynamic now, Peter. Remember, this is a dynamic warm-up. So again, you're just going through the motion like a rubber band. When you feel that tension, you work through it and you release it, always with breath. The reason we do one leg at a time is because most people have asymmetry in their hamstring length, so this will even it out over time. This next exercise brings it all together. We are going to fire up the core, the glute, and we're going to get some balance in there, which is one of the most important things for longevity and health. We're going to work the proprioception of the brain, trying to balance. It's going to wake up the toes, the feet. There's not much that this exercise doesn't hit. The move starts with a simple back lunge. So Peter's going to reverse lunge, making sure to put most of his weight on the front foot, being soft on the back toe. Then he's going to drive his knee up, hold that position a moment, push his knee into his hands. He's going to feel his core and his left glute squeezing and firing here. His toes are working to balance. He's going to bring that foot down. Now we're going to back lunge with the other leg, putting the strength on that front foot, driving up through the right glute, pushing the hand into the knee, activating that core, squeezing that glute, working on that balance, stepping down. Repeat this 6 to 7 more times. Down, drive up. This is a tough one. You can see Peter shaking here. He's trying to smile, but I promise it's really hard for him. Great finish to our standing dynamic warm-up routine. Peter's going to walk out on the floor in a push-up plank position here. And this is a great core stabilization exercise. We're going to have, if Peter wants to make it a little easier, he'll bring his feet a little wider. Peter can do the closer version, but I recommend doing this to start. And he's just going to tap his opposite shoulder, own the tap, and then come down, own the tap again. When you first do this, it's going to be really hard to own this tap without rotating over in the hips. All right, so go as wide as you need to own that tap. If you can't breathe when you're holding it, then it's not acceptable. You should be going wider. Super, super hard exercise. Peter's doing an awesome job maintaining his core integrity here, doing about 16 to 20 reps with good breathing. Continue on the ground, and we are going to stay on this ground for this entire next part of the sequence. I'm going to have Peter push up into the world-famous downward dog here, an exercise we love because it decompresses the spine and it gets that whole posterior line stretched. Again, great exercise to prepare for a hip hinge. Peter's doing a great job, tall here, no rounding, having a soft bend in the knee. Now, if you don't have this kind of flexibility, you're going to probably have to come down a little bit and you're going to bend those knees a little bit. Do that before you round your back in this exercise. So basically, bend your knees as much as you need to maintain that tall spine. Have your hips as low as you need to maintain it as well. So now we're going to move from the downward dog into a move dubbed by many, and definitely myself, as the world's greatest stretch. And if you're going to just pick one exercise out of this entire floor sequence, this is the one I want you to do because it opens up so many openers and extenders in the body. Your shoulders are going to feel great. Your hips are going to feel great after this one. So we're going to go right from the downward dog. Peter is going to flatten out back into that plank position where he started with his hips low. Bring the right foot outside the right hand. Now, some people might need blocks on their hands to get this position. Peter has enough hip mobility that he can hold it. No problem with using yoga blocks or something elevated, which will get your chest up, because if you're not high enough, the back's going to round and you're going to torque that lower back. So make sure you're at a position here where you can have a nice straight line through your spine. Now, if this wasn't good enough, just this position, I'm going to have Peter reach his right elbow toward the ground, getting rotation of the thoracic spine, also opening of the groin here, and then for the grand finale, reach up over his head, twist, decompress that upper back and neck, reaching as high as he can. You'll notice the straight line and plane of the twist. You'll also notice that he's staying rotated within his pelvis and opening from his shoulder. And Peter's doing such a great job. His chest is over his hips, which is exactly what you want. As much height as you can here. He'll bring that right elbow back down. He's not going to switch sides. Right back down, reach, twist again. With every one, you'll feel more and more open. You'll get closer and closer to the ground. Peter's a freak, but he's actually sweating now, finally, with this exercise. Back down and up. About 8 on each side is plenty. Now we're going to move from the world's greatest stretch, which is aptly named, to the deep squat. And something I want you to remember about the squat is if you do it from standing to sitting, your body feels threatened. It feels scary to go into that position. You're wondering if your hips are going to tighten, if your back is going to wrench on you a little bit. It just doesn't feel great. If you come into it from that world's greatest stretch low position, your body will accept it much better because you're already in the plane of being low and it feels much more natural to your body to get into that deep squat. Go ahead and step back with the right foot. Make sure the feet are slightly outside shoulder width and the toes a little bit externally rotated to open up the hip. Staying low, we're going to transfer the weight onto the heels, push the knees out with the elbows. And this is great because it activates the VMO, the knee stabilizer right here. And you can even feel free to just move your elbows back and forth and just kind of circle around and swim into those hips. The shoulders move exactly as you kind of push the right, put the left, get that adductor tightness to relax here. If you can, you're going to walk your hands behind you into a crab tabletop. If this is too difficult, no problem. You're just going to sit down on your front and then put your hands behind you and swivel around. But Peter was able to get into it right from that deep squat, which is ideal. This reverse tabletop here I like for a lot of reasons. We're working the glutes again. For both men and women, you're going to find the main part of the tightness in that pec insertion right here. So I want you to imagine that you're squeezing a pencil between your shoulder blades in your upper back here, and you're trying to crush that pencil as much as you can. Chin is back, really opening up the entire front line of the body. Hinge down all the way and drive up again. Hold it for a breath. We're still in a dynamic warm-up. We're not holding things too long. Get the stretch, push up again. You can't go high enough here. To finish off here, our dynamic warm-up sequence, Peter is going to explain his favorite warm-up exercise before he does all his amazing heavy hinges, deadlifts, squats. He knows it better than I do, so I'll let him take it from here.
Thanks, Jesse. This is called the Shin Box Drill, and it looks goofy, so people will look at you like you're kind of a toolbox in the gym. It's really important that you have something soft to do this on, or you're really going to hurt your knees. I'm going to show you 2 ways to do it. The first is when you're learning it, and you'll use your arms to take some of the weight off. And then once you graduate, you'll do it without your arms, and I'll show you that as well. So the first thing you want to do is you start with a wide ankle position, and then you're going to, in one motion, lay both knees down. They're at about 90 degrees. Now again, here you can use your arms to stabilize and lift you up. And you're coming up and forward. So if you think about all the stuff that we learned today about having a pelvic tilt that's forward, not sort of torquing your back, and then you come back down. Always come back to the seated position in the middle, and then do the same thing to the other side. Down and up. And then this is what it will look like after a while when you don't need your arms to do it, and you can do it a little quicker and a little more fluidly. So from here, down, up. Again, hips are forward.
And what I love about this one as a finisher is you're getting the mobility and the stability of the hips. So as you're coming up, you're pushing away with one leg, which is creating that stability, and then getting the mobility as you rise. So great finisher, great wrap up to this dynamic warm-up sequence.